slide then. So just to let you know, we are recording the session, and that's just for anybody that misses the session. But if you didn't want us to share it for any reason, just let us know, and we can make sure that we hide that you're on the call. So as I said, this is going to be quite an informal session today. We only have an hour, so we don't want to fill up the time too much. But we're going to give you a really brief update. There's so much going on in the news, what with COVID boosters and vaccinations, that we do really want to just cover some of that off. As a lot of you will have come to our last PPG network meeting, we introduced the integrated care system. So we just want to tell you about where we are with our engagement strategy and how we plan to work going forward. But most importantly, we'd really like your input into that with how we work with you going forward. Now, also, we didn't do this last year, but we would like to go through the successes we've had since COVID-19. That's not our successes, it's yours. So we'd love to hear from you about what you think's gone well in particular, and also we'd like to share with you what we think. And then the year ahead, you know, what do we want for PPGs going forward? It's been a really unsettling time over the last nearly 2 years now. We're hoping, I know we're back in a very difficult situation with COVID at the moment, but we really want to look ahead and think about what we can do and how we can improve things for you as PPG members. And then we've got some dates, and we'll just discuss the format for those meetings next year as well. So just before I start, I just want to let you know who's on the call. So you will know me, I'm Jo Ryder, and I'm Experience and Relationships Manager for the 3 CCGs. We've also got Sue on the call. Could you say hello, Sue?
Hi. So I know many of you know me, Sue Venables. I'm Head of Engagement and Insights for the CCG.
Thank you. We've got Beatrice on the call.
Hi, morning all. So I'm PPG Varja, Insights and Experience Officer for the 3 CCGs.
Thanks, Beatrice. We've got Helen.
Hi, I'm Helen Cullinan, and I'm the Community and Stakeholder Development Officer for the 3 CCGs, and I think quite a few of you know me anyway.
Thanks, Helen. And we've got Ifeoma as well.
Hi everyone, I'm Ifeoma. I'm the Insights and Research Officer for the Leicester City CCG.
Thank you. And if you don't know Ifeoma, you'll start to see her a lot more. She's doing all of our research and she's getting more and more involved. She's not been with us too long. So, okay, so we're going to move on and give you a bit of a brief update. So I'm just going to hand over to Sue just to give you the latest, if I can, please, Sue.
Yeah, so everybody will know that at the weekend the situation changed and the government declared an Omicron emergency. So that means that as a health system, we're back into something that is called command and control. So we have got our operational teams now working to be able to deliver as many vaccinations by the end of this year as absolutely possible. So some of the things that are happening is we are remobilizing a lot of staff to enable the existing large scale vaccination centres to increase their hours, so they're open 15 hours a day, and we will we're looking obviously to mobilize volunteers as well. So logistically that increase in hours is is quite a challenge to do, and we've got our ops team who've really been busy trying to do that. The other which the government have asked us to do is the 15-minute waiting after people have received the COVID vaccination. That won't be a requirement, so that is something that is changing as well. We also know that there are certain key areas across Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland where people haven't taken the opportunity for the vaccination in terms of possibly the first vaccination they may have had, but not the second. They may have had both, but they're wavering on the booster. So we are doing some really targeted work in those key areas. So to do that, we are redeploying our own teams within the clinical commissioning group. Our own engagement team will probably be involved in literally feet on the street in terms of where pop-up vaccination site in those given areas. We will go in a couple of days before to inform those areas to try and get maximum throughput to those centres. So over the next 2 weeks, but also beyond, things will get very intense. There will only be really Christmas Day and Boxing Day where vaccine centres won't be open. So it's just going to be business as usual for the NHS. So we've had to localise some of the national messages that started to come out on Monday. So we're working to get all the collateral together, and we will be able to send either today or tomorrow the new toolkits, because we know that, and we'd like to thank you in advance, that as PPG members you can really help to get those messages out to people within your communities. So we'll be giving you more information, but it has been really intense over the last 3 days in order to do that mobilisation for everybody. So I'll pause there because I can see there's some hands raised. So I can see John, you've got a hand raised.
Yes. What's the availability of vaccines? Because I was supposed to be working on Saturday, but I've been told to stand down now because we've not been able to obtain the vaccines that we need.
So nationally, we are told that the vaccinations are available and they're coming into local areas. But it's just the movement of those vaccinations around the system, because where we actually establish new sites, as well as trying to maintain the existing sites, we just need to make sure that the infrastructure around storage and everything is there. So obviously from a national basis, everybody has kind of increased their orders. As I say, we are told it isn't a shortage of vaccines at a national level. It's just around getting those delivered in a timely way and then moved around the system so they're in the right place. So I'm just, can anybody else see hands? I can only see on my screen.
Not at this point, I don't think, but there will be opportunities shortly if any come up, I think. Are you happy to move forward? Oh, Bev's just saying it would be nice if we could view the speaker on full screen rather than a poster. I agree. I was just trying to have a look and see how we could do that. What we'll do, we'll make sure that we take that down so that you can see us speak just after the next slide, if that's all right. We were quite keen just to put the website on because that's where all the local information is. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Agree with that. This slide just shows a lot of information, and you're probably aware we've got in the 3 different areas, so Leicester City, Leicestershire County and Rutland, the development of the new health and wellbeing strategies going forward. They've got different timelines on for when they end to give feedback on those priorities that have been developed, and we've just put some links in there, so we'll make sure you've got this presentation if you do want to make sure you've had your views heard on those survey links, and the dates are on there as well. So they're still live, all 3 of those. I'm actually going to hand back over to Sue. I wonder if we can change the way it's showing, or if we can just see a better way to, so that you can see the people speaking. Just try. If you go into view options at the top and just put exit full screen, you should be able to see people that way, and the speaker as well. Hopefully that works. So over to you, Sue, if that's okay.
Lovely. So sorry, I've got a hand raised. Paul, did you want to come in before I start?
Yes, Sue, hope you can hear me. Just a plea for Colville. We haven't been brilliantly served during the whole vaccination saga, apart from Measham, which struggled on. But there are certain quite poor areas in Colville, mainly Aigernock and Green Hill. Could I have a plea for some pop-up clinics there, please?
Okay, we've literally got a meeting at 2 o'clock in terms of pop-up clinics. So we will take that to them. I think what they're trying to do, because it is logistically quite difficult, because the pop-ups take as much resource as the larger ones, but I will make that plea into the group, or colleagues who are attending that group will.
Yeah, thanks very much.
And Alan.
Hi Sue, hi everybody. Hi. I've left 2 messages, but I can't get back to my first one. Yeah, in relation to pop-ups, this has happened before. We need a few days notice.
Yeah.
So we can publicise, because every time it's the day before and we can't possibly let everybody know in that such a short period.
Yeah, so what we're actually trying to do, Alan, and I've been on calls this morning to say that we know that logistically, to get the teams together, it is difficult in terms of volunteers and getting the fridges in and everything like that. But we do need to think around at least 2 days before, feet on the street going around. Otherwise, hard work is going to be put in to have the vaccine, and then nobody's going to turn up. So we are really banging the drum around that, and we'll continue to do so, because you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Second bit of it, Sue, is when you've got a main hub and then you're transferring the vaccine somewhere else for a clinic, a pharmacist has to go with it every time to make sure that it's stored and moved correctly. Well, nationally, vaccines come in big vans, delivered all over the place, without pharmacists following. So why can't that happen locally?
I will have to come back to that. I'm not clinical. I'm not a sort of pharmacist, so I would have to ask of our teams why that is.
Thanks, Sue.
Yeah. Okay, Kierit. Hi, Kierit. Would you like to come in with your question?
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute. Sorry. Yes, so 2 things. One is concern really in terms of the 2 things. One is around the health and care and wellbeing delivery plan, and particularly prior to that, there was also a alcohol consultation as well, about a month or 6 to 8 weeks ago. And I think these plans are great, but where is they're appearing, but where is the kind of consultation prior and engagement? Because I think that's something that it's like did with the Step Up to Great Mental Health. That was real community engagement on getting feedback. This is it appears to be not that much engagement. So I just wanted to raise that, and that I've raised it with the public health team around the alcohol consultation that they did a few months ago as well. So just want to raise that, because it's something that it's not the right way really.
Right, no, you're absolutely right, Kira, and that I think, if you'll allow me, can I go straight then into the presentation about doing that very thing?
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Right, okay, so by the 31st of March, each integrated care system has to have developed in partnership their engagement plan, in terms of outlining in terms of what they are going to do in their area, in terms of ensuring that local people and communities are an embedded part into their integrated care system. So if we can just go to the next slide. So the nationally, they have put 10 principles together for how the ICS should work with people and communities. And we feel locally, looking at these principles, that they are ones that we would want to adopt. They're exactly the sorts of thinking that we would want. But we also feel that there are a few additional principles that we would want to add to this. So things like, if you look at these principles, we haven't got the given mention of patient participation groups on here. So we think there's a principle that we need to adapt for that. We are adopting these 10 national principles, but we will share this slide deck with you today, because part of our ask is, in adopting these principles, what else do we need to think around on top of these for our own local area. So we can just go to the next slide. So we do feel, just because now we are evolving into an integrated care system, it doesn't mean that we're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. It doesn't mean that we are actually forgetting what strong foundations we currently have in terms of engagement and patient experiences. And I mean, Kira, you've just mentioned a couple of the key engagement, the Better Hospitals and the Step Up to Great, which PPG's supported us with. But we've also done considerable work on things like the COVID vaccination and primary care. And that's total talking to some 22,000 people over the last 18 months. So we want to take more of that, more of the work, particularly that we've done with voluntary and community sector groups, and more of the background work, and build on those foundations. And that includes this conversation really today in terms of the patient participation group network, and what you want to see in terms of the strategy going forward. We can just go to the next slide. So some of the priorities that we have pulled out. Now, I'm not going to talk to each of these because we will share the slides with you, and as I say, ask you to build on those. But I suppose I want to just pull out 6 of the key priorities where I think that the patient participation groups will probably be the most interested and to get involved. So through a lot of the work that we're doing on a regular basis, but through our engagement with you, we know that you provide us with a lot of the experiences and a lot of the insights, and act as those critical friends in terms of how the health system is performing and looking at the needs of local people. One of the key, sometimes frustrations that we have for engagement people are making sure that all those insights, all those things that you tell us are embedded into the ICS with our leaders and those decision makers. So not only do we want to invest further in making sure that we've got ways to get those insights in, we want to make sure that people are aware of those insights, they're really promoted across the health system. But we also want to create behaviour change with the key decision makers around the tables, so that they actually see insights, they see feedback from people, those communities, as strong assets in order to address inequalities. Rather than a barrier to what they might be wanting to go forward, and we kind of need your support to do that. I think another key area that I would pull out is we also want to reignite what was things like expert patient panels, and reignite that support, which particularly PPGs were very strong at before COVID, in terms of those self-care and prevention messages. So we feel that's a priority, but we want to know from you whether that you feel strongly about that priority. Just in the bottom left-hand corner of these obviously we want to have that conversation around primary care networks, how you want to engage with us as a network, but also what you want the framework to look like. So we might have a network, we might have a primary care network in terms of the new PCNs, but also what support you need at a PPG to reignite your PPGs. I mean, we know that many are working still successfully, and they have been during COVID, but we're also hearing from people that some are not as strong as they were. So we want to know, what are the barriers to that? Is it finances? Is it other things? So we really need to know how we can shape that and put that as part of the strategy. And then the bottom right hand one, and again, we think that this would be a key priority for patient participation groups in these creation of both the place plans. So these are the plans that are being developed at Leicestershire County Council level, Leicester City Council level, and Rutland County Council level. But those other neighbourhood plans that are happening in really localised areas, so centring around places like Hinckley and Bosworth, the town of Lutterworth, so very localised, and that's being driven by housing development, and Melton. So they're just 3 examples. So I just really wanted to pull out today. I mean, I've just pulled those out, but there may be other priorities that you see. If I can just go to the next slide. So it's around, I mean, please speak freely around any of the priorities, but we'd particularly like to have that sort of honest conversation with you today on what you see engagement looking like in terms of patient carers, patient participation groups, the network and the primary care network, because now is the time that we can embed your views into the strategy before we start then doing, quite rightly, the challenge that Kierit had in terms of that wider engagement and consultation of the strategy. So I'll pause there. If we can maybe take the slides down and sort of open it up to questions, if that's okay, Jo?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. So Howard. Want to come in?
Yes, hi. I'm thinking prior to the COVID started, we used to have called PSEG meetings, the patient community engagement. That seems to have just died off. Is there any thoughts that we can re-establish that? Because it's a good session for all the different communities across LLR. And would that fit in with this, what we've just been talking about?
So thank you for that, Howard. I mean, we're kind of open to anything that you feel is the right thing to do. So clearly those PSEG meetings were useful, presuming that time there were face-to-face meetings that you had. At
the time, yes, they were. But I mean, it's the sort of thing I think that could easily be done online as well.
Yes, yeah.
I can certainly feed that in. It was something that I managed at the time, so I can work with Sue on looking at how we can perhaps incorporate that and reignite it. I know it was since COVID we hadn't done it. It was quite difficult. So yeah, that's really useful. Thanks, Howard. I can pick that up.
Alan?
Thanks for that. Integrated to me means links with social services and the closer links with social services. With that in mind, should we not be expecting more representation at meetings like this from social services with members of senior management or whatever to show how we can impact on the work that they're doing possibly, and also greater integration with the NHS work?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it for me, it doesn't only go down to social services. I think some of the best work that we're starting to do now, particularly with the neighbourhood plans, is with individual district councils as well, because in a lot of cases, they're really close to the ground level stuff as well. So no, thank you for that.
I don't think we really have any voice when it comes to those areas. The focus at the moment is very much NHS, but there are obviously issues related to social services that we can't get a voice to, really.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
And Kirit's put similar in the chat box about the same point, where he says NHS CCG have been good at engagement and involvement with public health and local authorities, not the same. So under ICS, this has to be addressed.
Yes, I do share that. We are very different beasts, aren't we, in terms of our approach. The other Alan Vaughan. Hi, Alan. I think you're on mute at the minute, Alan.
Still on mute.
There you go.
Hi.
One of the things about PPGs is I'm not sure where it happens anywhere else. One, my understanding is that when the GP contract was changed some time ago, that practices don't have to have a PPG anymore. That's stage one. And two, certainly in Northwest, which Paul, I and others have attacked in our Jake, the Federation manager, is that half our practices don't engage in PPG meetings or haven't even got a PPG anymore. Particularly, I'm not going to mention the name, but one of the biggest practices within Northwest hasn't got a PPG.
Yeah.
And unless in every area we all have, it defeats the object a bit.
Totally agree with you, Alan, because if we're creating some sort of structure, unless you've got the foundation of that structure, which I see the PPGs, then it's a house of cards, isn't it? It will all come scrambling down.
So is there any way that through the CCG they could talk to practices to try and encourage those that don't to get involved?
I think that's a must in terms of our priorities, Alan. We need to have those conversations. It could be that we might need to look at resource for making that happen. We have talked around that because particularly at the moment, priorities are stretched in terms of practices, but I think we've got to talk through that.
Thanks, Sue.
Just to pick up on the point that you just raised there, BSU's doing an audit at the moment of who we know we've got in PPGs, which ones are represented and which ones aren't. So as soon as we've got that, we can see how big the problem is and then take that back to the practices to address. So we've started that work, but by doing an audit first, because we have lost PPGs through going online, of course. So that's another thing that we've noticed.
Yeah, thanks, Joe.
Because it would be good. It would be good to get a sense as well from you, in addition to the audit, just how big a problem you all think it is. I mean, it will come through to the audit, but that intelligence on the ground level that you've got is invaluable to us. So I think it was Kirit next, and I've got Paul, then Howard.
Yeah, what Alan said around. I think, look, there's a couple of things. There's whether there's an incentive for practitioners to have PPGs, when the primary care trusts were around, that's why they were set up. So, but I don't think it's a resource issue as such, because I think what it is a communication issue, firstly, because since the primary care networks have been established, I think that seems to be a big challenge around communication. And secondly, it's, I know the practices are stretched, but there's, I think there's a lot of, or correct me if I'm wrong, but there's social prescribers attached to various practices. Now, there's a resource there. Maybe if they're not doing their social prescribing element of having enough people to support, then surely let's be a bit more smart in terms of and proactive around utilizing that resource. because otherwise what we're going to have is PPGs need that support. We as chairs can only do so much because we obviously got daytime jobs. I'm only here because I'm passionate. I want to make sure that, you know, the PPG structures is the right structure, but we need to make sure that the practices are probably given a bit more understanding around the importance of PPGs, and the primary care networks get more, you know, and there's lots of good work that Patient Association have done, National Voice have done around PPGs. And I think we need to kind of give that additional kind of revisit that in terms of why we have a PPG.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's taking one step back, isn't it, Kierit? Just to kind of remind ourselves, because I think, you know, we've got the issue of you know, of COVID that has taken the finger off the pulse in terms of that. But I think, you know, there were issues before then in terms of declining numbers.
And just to add, I think we you know, Joe's aware of this, but, you know, I've still to date haven't been engaged in the City PPG forum, which is, you know, and I'm you know, East Park Medical Centre's kind of rep. So I think what we need to do is look at, you know, when we create various forums and structures, we need to look at how we're also holding the accountability as well, because otherwise, if there's no accountability on that structure or other structures, then we're just, you know, going to be duplicating, and secondly, we're going to be disillusioned about why do we need to engage if it's a talk shop.
Yeah. No,
sorry to be flippant.
No. I don't think you'll get any argument from anybody on the call on that. So Karen, I can see your message in the chat box. So I'll just come to Paul, Howard, and then if I come to you, Karen. So and then Joe, if I bring you in. So Paul Siddles, do you want to come back in?
Yeah, I just really want to echo everything that Alan and Kierit has just said. It doesn't need resources, it just needs some will on the part of the practices to believe in PPGs and want them. I mean, there's a tragedy of me asking for pop-up clinics in the poor areas of Central Colville and Aignok and Greenhill, when the practices there don't have active PPGs and don't ask for these pop-up clinics. So these are the biggest practices in the Colville area, and all we need is the practices to believe in PPGs, to ask individuals who are competent, who are capable of forming a PPG to do it, give them a bit of moral support, and then turn up to the managers or a clinician turn up to 4 meetings a year. And it's not asking a lot, it's not asking any money, it's not even asking a lot of time. And the benefits should be self-evident. So anyway, that's my little rant over.
No, not a rant at all, Paul. It's some really good points made there. Howard?
Right, I'm secretary of the River Road Medical Centre, PPG. The PPG itself, the members are still quite active, although we don't have formal meetings. We do meet socially, and we actually only met yesterday lunchtime for our sort of festive lunch. But we've not heard anything from the practice. We've had a new practice manager, I think, in place now probably for at least a year. Not once have he been in contact with any of the PPG members. Myself and our chair lady, we do speak to various members of the practice team, the reception manager or one or two of the GPs. Basically, we ask what's going on with the practice, staff changes, all that sort of thing. And we have had the occasional WhatsApp video conference with one of the GPs that normally used to attend the actual meetings. But I say we've had nothing from the practice manager to see how the PPG are, can they do anything to support us? Can we do anything to support them? Which I think is a pretty bad show.
Thank you for sharing that, and I'm sorry that those experiences. I mean, certainly our view is, that during COVID it should have been perhaps more reason to contact PPGs rather than less reason. So Karen, can I come to you? If you're able to put your mic on.
Can you hear me?
Great. Yeah, we can. Yeah, sorry you can't put your raise your hand.
I don't know why. I think it was my system. I had a problem when we did a locality PPG last week. So which meant going out and coming back in again. But I won't. I thought as long as you can hear me, that's great. Thank you. Yeah. I put in the chat box about there being. In fact, I'll just read what I said. I think it's a two-way traffic between the CCG and the PPGs is really important. I must admit, the thing that really made me think this, when the agenda came out and it said on there, I think third or fourth item, our thoughts for the year ahead and what do we want from the PPGs for 2022? And I thought, yeah, but it's just as important what we want from the CCG. So, and I'm sure that's what you're doing today. That's what you're listening to us and why we're here. But I think it's important that it is a two-way street with clarity around job roles and job profiles, etc. So we know who's in charge. I think we're getting a little bit more used to it now because of these Zoom meetings. We're getting to recognise one or two faces now and names. Thank you, Virtue, for all your emails and links, etc. I really appreciate that. We get a lot from that, so thank you. I also put in the chat about, I do think that a lot of people have made their worlds a lot smaller since March 2020. Concentrating on what they think is most important to them, families, etc. They may have been struggling with working from home, educating from home, etc. And I do suspect that has had quite a big, well, I don't know, I suspect it has somewhat of a knock-on as to why the PPGs haven't had the there aren't as many, there's not as much activity as there was prior to COVID. We're very lucky at Castle Medical Centre in Ashby. Our practice manager is excellent, always gets back to me. She's proactive, but also very reactive. And I know we're lucky. Well, I think from what you're saying, it sounds as though we're very lucky in that. So thank you. I think that's it, Sue.
No, that's really useful, and I think we need to make sure that as an engagement team that you know who we are and who you can come to. I know Burge is the key point of contact, but there's a team there, so I think that's a really good point, because I think we have lost, haven't we, that when we used to meet up at the face-to-face meeting,
yes,
you could have a bit of a casual conversation over coffee and that sort of thing, and we've sadly lost that. So that it's unfortunate, but out of everybody's hands, isn't it? Yeah. So Jo, did you want to come in?
Yeah, just echo what you've just said, Karen, and I do hope we can get back to that. Obviously things are going in the wrong direction at the minute, but that is an ambition of ours, most definitely, is to get back together face to face. I just wanted to pick up on what Kirit had said about the Leicester City Forum. I did have a conversation last week about that and reigniting that, but across Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland. So the purpose of what we do in a minute will hopefully form that, what what we would like to know is, what do we want this network to be, and what do we want a forum to be? Are they different things? You know, is there a need for that? For those that don't know, the City Leicester City Forum was an independent group of PPGs that came together to offer support for making PPGs the best that they could. And really supporting each other. So it feels like there may be a need for that, and if that's something that we want, then we could certainly look at how we do that aside from the network. So hopefully we'll come on to that. Thank you.
Lovely. And can I invite Susan Alexander? I think you're just on mute at the moment.
It's all right, I've just found the button. My main point is that PPGs are the middle person between the patient and the doctor, or the practice manager, and the community. We are the one I'm in and chair of, we put things in the local press. We've had an outdoor meeting on a very cold, wet day, and we managed to talk to 20 people who had got things they wanted to say but couldn't say in the practice, because at that particular time they weren't letting anybody in unless they got an appointment. Door, one in and the door, and that was it. And we managed to sort things out for them. 2 of us have actually got involved with a charity that runs the drop-in centre, and we're there to give a little bit of help with logging on to the practice site for getting prescriptions, making appointments, showing people how to do it. We chat to them, and if they've got anything that they're not sure about that we can help with, we'll do that. We're actively talking about try things for yourself first, self-help, work your way through. And if after 3 days of trying something medically wise, it's not working, then you get in touch with your doctor for advice, which is how I was brought up 60 odd years ago. My mum would try everything out first, and if that didn't work, we would then go to the doctor and she'd say what she'd done. So we're aiming to get people more educated on that side of things, which is also part and parcel of making life easier for the not easier, making the doctors less rushed with their consultations, because if you've tried everything, you know what you're going to talk about when you get there. And we are now meeting face to face in the GP's practice every 2 months for a meeting with the practice manager, the reception lead, and a clerk in our meetings. We've got lots of members who cannot use the computer, cannot use a mobile phone, so we can't even do WhatsApp. And as I say, I'm visually impaired, so everything I do in large print. I'm hearing impaired, so I've got a Bluetooth hearing aids, and we can cope. I can cope, and I'm trying to get other people to do the best they can for themselves by example. And I had a lovely message from the patient lead yesterday. She said, without doing the work that you do, Sue, our PPG would not exist. Keep doing it. We're right behind you. And I didn't know what to say to that. Just proves it's all going in the right direction at our practice.
I just think everything you've just described there is just absolutely tremendous. And I congratulate you on what you're doing. I know that is mirrored by the support of many people on this call doing the same, but that is just absolutely amazing work. And it just shows we've just got to get this message across and go back a step to our practices in terms of saying, look at this fantastic work, you can benefit from patient empowerment by just having that patient participation.
I also communicate on a regular basis with the practice manager, whether we've got a meeting due or not, just to see how they're doing and how their practice is doing because of COVID, trying to boost their morale by telling them how well that they are doing and letting them know.
Yeah, no, that tremendous work, Sue, and thank you for sharing that. So I just to kind of sort of summarize this section, what we will do is now we will send the set of slides through to you. We're really keen to hear from you in terms of the principles and what do we need, because those are national principles. What do we need to add on for our local principles to that, but also those priorities. Bear in mind, this isn't a plan, it's a, it's an overall strategy. So please come back to us and we will then make sure that this is embedded in, and then we can keep tweaking this over the next couple of months to make sure that it's right for our communities. So thank you for that. I'll pass back to Jo now.
Let's see. I'm not going to share the slide here because I think we'll just come back to the so we can all see each other, and we'll come back to this. But what I know you've already started to share some of this, which is great to hear, all the stuff that's been going on. But what I would really like to know is what do you think's been achieved since COVID-19? You've all been online. Some of you have started to go and meet face to face, which we've just heard. Some of you have been doing things very local, some of it not related to PPG, some of it's as volunteers. So we'd really like to hear from you. What do you think your PPG, or you as part of a PPG, has achieved, if anything, since March last year? So we have a hand up. So if I come to you, Alan, we're going to collate these. So that'd be great. Alan?
Yeah, thank you. One of the main things that's happened is that we've been able to make contact with other organisations which can support what we were trying to do as a small PPG during the COVID. One of the issues at the very beginning was, of course, medication and food to people. We've made connections now to people like Dial-A-Ride, who have been in existence for some time, moving people around, but they became involved with what we were doing in trying to deliver food and stuff like that. So the organisation connections are much stronger. The other thing I must speak up for is the local area coordinators and social prescribers, who a lot of what we did couldn't have been done without their help and support. They are a vital part of what is going on in GP surgeries now. I know not all surgeries have local area coordinators, but I think everyone has a social prescriber. But they are beginning to work together so that if it's a medical issue, we can turn to the social prescribers. If it's a social services issue, we can turn to the LACs. So that group of people are putting in enormous time and effort to make connections with people who can't get to the surgery, or in fact would normally go to the surgery with a problem that they've got, but it's not a clinical problem, it's a loneliness problem, or it's an issue that really is taking a lot of time for GPs to deal with. And these people are stepping in and spending time with these individuals to try and sort out what their difficulties are and signpost them in the right directions. For me, the big positive that's come out of this is that it's brought a lot of groups together that probably didn't know each other existed, but it's also begun to push together social services and NHS to begin to work together, which is so vital, I think, in any of the developments that we move forward with. Care is the big thing, not NHS care, not social care, just care. That's the important element, I think, that we must focus on. Thank you.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Al. You made some really good points there. I know earlier on in the conversation, there were pockets where I know Kirit said about knowing who the social prescribers are. Not everybody does. I think that's a really good point. You know, there's definitely something we can be doing there to link you in with those and see where you can work together. I know, Alan, you're befriending service as well, which you came and presented to the group, which is fantastic. And more of that, you know, if there's an opportunity and somebody wants to come and talk about what they've been doing at one of our sessions, then we'd love to hear that and share that throughout the group. So some really good points well made there. Thank you, Alan. And Alan Bourne, over to you. You're on mute.
That's better. That's on?
Yep.
Just to reiterate what Alan's saying, really, that's really good. We have locally, and I suspect with the new COVID situation, it will happen again. We've got a neighbourhood group that deliver parcels and all the other things. And whatever comes up, I make sure the neighbourhood group know as well, so they can talk to all the people they deal with to pass information on. But it'd be good to do more. It's a matter also of who's got the time to do it as well.
Yeah, and again, like Alan has said before, you know, these are the kind of things that we need to hear, because we can use these now with some of the urgent messages we want to get out. You've all made connections, you're all sharing across your networks and your neighbourhoods, as you just mentioned. So this is great, and it may not have happened this quickly without COVID. So thank you for feeding that in. Jans, over to you.
Sorry. Just something that I don't know if people are aware of. Virgin Media pay-as-you-go phones. A lot of people have them in the drawer. They just take them out if they go shopping, charge them every now and then. They are ceasing them by the end of January. And the only thing they're doing is sending one text message telling the user when they will be cut off if they don't go to direct debit. For elderly people that don't ever read their messages, it's you know, they may never know until a year's time that their phone's being cut off. You know, it's quite frightening. We had an elderly relative who was in a care home, and she asked one of her nephews, can you just get rid of all those messages that keep popping up? And he read through them to her and said, you know, your phone's going to be cut off on the 11th.
Not something that I'm aware of, but thank you for sharing that. It's something that we can go and have a look at and see if we, you know, if we can promote that, then we can certainly do that and let it known to people that they need to check.
Yeah, because some of them have already been cut off and you won't get your number back. They started rolling it out at the beginning of September, and we only know because we got a message for January the 11th.
Well, that's really useful. So thank you. I've made a note of that, and we'll see if we can circulate that information, let people know that that's happening. If you could put in the chat box anything else, like, you know, from achievement point of view. I know we've overrun a little, so and I don't want to keep you longer than we said, really. I'm just going to bring up a slide just to cover off what we think achievements have been made from PPGs. So you've promoted the acute and maternity consultation across the communities. Now that was really challenging for us because it was online, and we asked you to do the same. So, you know, really big thank you for doing that. It was a really big piece of work and a very successful one as well. So that's something that you've done. You've done this today, sharing best practice ideas. You know, you're giving us food for thought, both in the CCG and other PPGs as well. So definitely would like to see some more of that as well, where we can. And we'd like to open up a bit of a slot if people have got things they'd like to come and talk about, absolutely, at the next, continually in our networks. Another one, you promoted the mental health consultation across communities as well. Again, we had really big success with this. We'd learned a lot from our first acute and maternity consultation, and you were an integral part of that. So another really big thank you for the work that you did on that for us. You've discussed with us suggestions for increasing COVID vaccination awareness across Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland, and you're still doing that as well. We are going to come to you again. We're really in an urgent situation now. We are going to be targeting areas, in particular local areas, so you may hear from us, seeing how, if at all possible, you can support as well. But it hasn't gone unnoticed. You have really supported us since the start, so again, really big achievement there as well. You've shared our toolkits, so we've put together toolkits for you, which mainly have been digital. We've done a little bit of printed materials, but mainly it's been online. I know, for example, Alan shared on Nextdoor, that network for us. You've shared things on WhatsApp and through your locally with your communities. So again, really big thank you for doing that for us. You've come together digitally and supported the PPG network, and I know that's been really challenging. It hasn't been inclusive. It's really tricky for us to do that, and we completely understand. And as soon as we can come together face to face, we'd absolutely love to do that. But thank you for the efforts you've made to do that. Has been challenging, takes up time. We've had to all learn how to do it, but here you are. So that's great to see. You've offered feedback on a number of initiatives from a patient and PPG perspective, and that's where this group's really good and really useful to us, particularly in the primary care survey that we did. We've had so much feedback, particularly from this group, which we're still taking forward. And you've continued through the pandemic to support your practices and your patients with health and wellbeing messaging and being a voice. So again, really big thank you there. So from all of us at the CCG with regards to achievements, really big thank you. We've had in the chat box about Kirit saying that he's put mental health as a rolling agenda item on their PCM because of the importance of it. So that's really great to hear. And there's a request here for keep doing toolkits. And we've got a latest one coming out, which will be on the new booster campaign, which you will see. It is close to Christmas. It will be there in your inboxes. So apologies for that. We're continuing through Christmas. So if you are able to support in any way, we don't want to take you away from your celebrations, but if there are things you can do, we'd love to hear that. So next slide, please. I know I'm running out of time, but really want to know what you want for PPGs in 2022. If you just snip onto the next slide, Bish, just due to time here, I just want to point out the next network meeting dates that we've got in the diary. Now, they are for an hour because this was something that you'd requested, that we didn't do anything really heavy. There might be periods of time where we put extra ones in or we extend them like we did with the last meeting because of what we're talking about. It's really important for you to know. But we'd love to hear that as well. Is that right for you? We can't really get away from virtual at the moment for understandable reasons. But again, we do want to be able to come face to face if at all possible. So with that in mind, we'd love to just hear from you now in the last few minutes what you would like to see. And I know Karen mentioned it earlier about this isn't necessarily about what we want you to do. It's also what would you like from us? So please use the chat function, raise your hand. I've got a couple of hands up now. And again, you can get in touch with us virtually on email as well if you want to put your views in that way. So Jans, have you got another, is that a new hand raise or was that from before? No? Okay, I won't come to you then. So Howard, over to you.
Just a quick one. For future network meetings, can we as PPG members put suggestions for an agenda to you people for inclusion? One suggestion per meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose at the moment they're an hour long, so we do kind of rattle through quite a lot. If you are happy to come to a longer meeting, if we do that, then we'd certainly look at that. But yeah, I'd love to hear ideas about what you want to see on there.
I'm happy for an hour and a half, 2 hour meeting. Not a problem for me.
Yeah, and of course, if that's something that people are interested, then absolutely. If it's worthwhile, we'd love do whatever you find is worthwhile. Absolutely. So yeah, any requests for future meetings, would love to hear those, definitely.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Karen's put in the chat box. Did you want to come in, Karen, or would you like me to read it out? Not sure if Karen, are you there?
I'm Trying, yes, I think I'm here now.
We can hear you.
Yes, I just wanted to say that I think our biggest success at Ashby is that we've only missed 2 monthly meetings since March 2020. And we have kept in regular touch with members who didn't want to do online or couldn't do online. Luckily, every single member that we do have an email address for. But if I wasn't getting a response to emails, I was calling a few just to check up and see how they were getting. But and although we are now meeting face to face, because I managed to find a location that a social club that allowed me to become a member of the social club for the grand sum of £20 a year, which gave me free access to a meeting room once a month. And that's working really well at the moment, but I also do Zoom as well. So my laptop sits on the table facing the group, and it's been surprisingly successful actually. I didn't know how it would work, but it's worked well. So yeah, that was about it, other than to say Merry Christmas to everybody.
That's great, thank you, Karen. And again, really good suggestion there. And absolutely, this is the kind of thing we'd love to hear that we can share. And if people want to do something similar or need some support to do that, we'd love to hear about it. So there's other things in the chat box, like 5 on Friday, can it come out on a Thursday? I know we've struggled to do that in the past, but it's certainly something we'll take back and sit and just raise that as a challenge. You know, other people just saying about the challenge is sometimes not always accessible daytime, but we'll try to ask for a substitute to attend. And if anyone can do the same, you know, that would be really good. We do record the sessions too, so happy to share those as quickly as we can. Alan's suggesting relaunch the concept of PPGs with a GP surgery and create incentives for them to engage, maybe do through the PCN. So that's definitely something we can look at, because we do want to reignite PPG membership. And then Alan's just putting the reason about of the 5 on Friday is if clinics happen over the weekend, we can't communicate that quickly on Friday. So it might be that we can get some information to you a bit quicker, but certainly in some instances. So I have overrun by 2 minutes, so big apologies. There's so much we could talk about. I know we've had requests for an hour long. This main session was for us to make sure we see you before the break. We did really want to thank you for everything that you've achieved over the last 2 years, really. We hope that we can come together virtually early next year. You know, for those that celebrate Christmas, a huge Merry Christmas to you all. For those that don't, you know, have a great break, enjoy a very happy New Year celebration. And from all of us, you know, we really want to thank you. So I'll just let Sue to say anything else that she wishes, and I'll wish you a Merry Christmas. So thank you.
It's just really a repeat of what Jo has said. We really do appreciate your time and everything that you have done, and we know that we've got more asks, particularly with the current situation, but we do thank you for everything that you do, and have a great holiday around Christmas and a good New Year.
And we'll see you all in the new year. So we'll circulate this presentation with the dates, and we'll look forward to catching up then. So please take care, everybody.
Merry Christmas to everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Nice to see you all.
Thanks. Bye. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.